Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News. This is Scott from the Nibiru channel. It is June 16th, 2017. And ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon, we are here with our Planet X rogue physicist. Doctor, how are you this afternoon?
I'm very well. Thank you, Scott. And how are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be delving into the hypothesis of Nemesis. And this has been something that I've wanted to do with all of our viewers and subscribers for quite some time now. And I've investigated the entire theory and hypothesis of Nemesis, and it's never been proven, and it's never been disproven. So me and the doctor decided to delve into this hypothesis of Nemesis, our sun's binary twin. Now, in my opinion, I truly believe that our sun does have a binary twin. And the doctor has taken quite a bit of time to write a report on this subject. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the whole situation with, as we call it, Planet X, Nibiru, Nemesis, again, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to label it, we have to understand one thing. We're not dealing with a hypothesis or a theory at this point in time, at this point in real life. A lot of the discoveries that have been made by myself and also the doctor are leading us to believe that we're being faced with a completely different situation other than the hypothesis of Nemesis, and possibly something completely different than Nibiru. So we're going to go ahead and go into this report because, ladies and gentlemen, you know, there's a very high possibility that many, many, many years ago, this disinformation through governments and shadow governments may have been placed out there to begin the cover-up of what is exactly happening. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, dealing with the issues that are occurring with our sun and what is happening in our inner solar system. These are the things that we have to worry about. What is happening here on Earth, the climate chaos and the wild weather, all of these things play into the possibilities of this Nemesis, Death Star, whatever you want to call it. When I refer to Planet X, I'm referring to, well, basically the X factor. So we're going to be getting into a lot of this, and I hope after we're finished with this live stream, I hope everybody has a very good understanding of what is happening. And ladies and gentlemen, it's not fake. You know, we don't sit here and do this for money because well, let's just face it, you know, YouTube isn't the greatest employer in the world for creators. Our main goal is to bring this information to you. We would like to bring it to the complete world population, and eventually we will. So, Doctor, I'm going to go ahead and pull up your report, if you give me just one moment. And here we have Nemesis.
Yes.
Nemesis, the sun's binary twin, question mark. And ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we have the question mark there is because Nemesis has never been proven scientifically. It is a hypothesis. It is a theory. And we're going to go ahead and get right into that, Doctor. I'm going to go ahead and turn it straight over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Right. So Nemesis well, I call it the Nemesis.
Well, you're breaking up a little bit, Doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, just moment, just hold on for a moment. We've been having internet problems all over the East Coast. Hopefully she can get back online with us. One moment. One moment. Oh, okay, Doctor, are you there?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. As soon as you began, we lost you. We lost complete.
Oh my.
Yeah, we lost complete and total communication with you from the minute you started saying the word Nemesis.
Oh my. All right, so I'll start again.
Okay.
Right. Right. So the Nemesis theory is that the sun is part of a binary system and that the other star is a red dwarf star, and it's called Nemesis because Nemesis has a negative connotation of being destructive. And so that's what he thought happens. And the binary period is 26,000 years. So that means this star would approach the sun every 26,000 years, reach perihelion with respect to the sun. And then in addition to that, part of the theory includes something called a planet X. Although some people call the star itself planet X, but from what I've viewed, most people have Nemesis and planet X. And planet X is supposed to orbit both stars and come close to the Earth every 3,600 years. And and then every time planet X or Nemesis comes into the solar system, they go through what's called the Oort cloud, which has trillions of rocky objects. And then these objects' orbits are perturbed and they get sent into the solar system and cause havoc, of course. So in figure 1, what we see is a binary star system. So two stars, they don't actually orbit each other. They orbit the center of mass of the system. So if they're exactly the same mass, they would orbit a point exactly between the two. But the Nemesis star is supposed to be a lot less massive than the sun because red dwarf stars are a lot less massive. Now, there is some merit to the theory because 80% of all star systems are binary in the galaxy. So there is a possibility, of course, that the sun does have a binary twin. Okay, so if we scroll down a little bit, Scott, getting into what a red dwarf is. And first of all, no such star has been observed. And so it is therefore thought that it's very faint. And very faint would mean that perhaps it's a red dwarf star. And red dwarf stars are smaller. They're between 0.075 and 0.5 times the mass of the sun. And they have a maximum surface temperature of 4,000 Kelvin. So that means, don't forget, the sun is 5,700 Kelvin. So that means that it will look orangey red rather than white like our sun is. And but it's also a main sequence star, so it has much of the same activities that our sun does, stellar wind, and so on. So so that's what the theory says. Now, we then get into planet X. Planet X is supposed to orbit both stars. But there is a little problem with that, because if planet X orbits both stars, it will have to orbit outside the orbit of both stars. And that would mean that its period has to be longer than 26,000 years. And this is due to Kepler's law. And I use this diagram here to illustrate that. So this is, it shows the sun and the inner planets Yes, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and I have placed the orbital period for each planet next to each planet. So Mercury, as you can see, is 88 days. Venus is 243. Earth is 365. Mars is 687. And we're going outwards from the center of the solar system, which is the Sun. So you can see that the further out you go, the higher the orbital period becomes. So Jupiter is 4,329 days, and the furthest out in this picture is Saturn with 10,759 days orbital period. So as you can see, it increases. So if planet X orbits outside the orbit of the smallest star, which would be Nemesis, and Nemesis has a period of 26,000 years, then planet X would have a period that's greater than 26,000 years. So it could never be 3,600 years.
And that,
so
that,
that
would
doesn't
be,
really work.
that would be the 3,600 years that would fall in line with Zechariah Sitchin, the Sumerian tablets, Nibiru, that whole hypothesis.
That's right. So the two things don't really fit. Either we have, because planet X could actually be a brown dwarf star, and it may come in, say, every 3,600 years. That's a possibility. But having Nemesis with a period of 26,000 years and planet X with an orbit of 3,600 years, and the two being part of the same system doesn't really work. So that's what I wanted to mention here.
So we're talking mathematics.
Basically. Yes.
Okay, because this kind of brings me to the thoughts of Planet 9 and that whole mathematical theory that they came up with a few years ago. The two astronomers, Mike Brown, Konstantin Batygin. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but they came up with the theory of Planet 9 based on math, a mathematical equation, and I think a 20,000 year orbit around our sun. And also basically the accusation that this Planet 9 was what tilted our sun. So, ladies and gentlemen, whenever I started first hearing about this whole mathematical theory of Planet 9, I immediately felt that it was, well, kind of a disinformation being placed out there, and with two very credible scientists and astronomers in Mike Brown and Konstantin Batygin. Well, I mean, they basically publicized these two astronomers. They had them on, well, every national news television show, 60 Minutes, giving talks, seminars, conferences, and really, really, really pushing this issue of this Planet 9. So we move from very far in the past from the hypothesis of Nemesis. Then we move to Planet 9. So you can see where everyone would start to get kind of confused, because you're believing in one thing, then you're led to believe something else. But the clear observations of what is happening in the inner solar system is basically a fact. I mean, we have enough imaging, we have enough evidence to prove what we're saying. And we're already feeling very crucial events dealing with our sun and the earth and every planet in our solar system. And the doctor has gone over this in many of her reports. So we will continue to lead to the fact that we have more than one substellar object in our solar system. There's no doubt about that. Let me clarify something else also. We're not going to have any planetary collisions. Nibiru is not going to crash into the Earth. Nemesis is not going to come from the depths of space and destroy the sun or crash into Earth. So we can get all of those myths right out of our heads today and move forward in the doctor's report, because I think this was a fantastic report, basically knocking out these other hypotheses. Is that the correct terminology?
Hypotheses is correct, Scott. Yes.
Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, back to you, because I just wanted to get that out there for all of the viewers, so we're all on the same page. So it's
okay.
all
Good.
yours.
Thank you, Scott. All right, so we can move a little bit lower in the report. So I explained it here in this figure. What you see is the sun. You see Nemesis, that's its orbit with respect to the sun. And then you see planet X, which is outside the orbit of Nemesis. And that would, of course, mean that it would have to have a period greater than 26,000 years. Then we go into what is part of the theory, which is the comets in the solar system. So it is thought that both planet X, remember I said that at the beginning, and Nemesis, if they come into the solar system, they disturb the orbit of these objects that are outside basically the solar system. And then they get sent in towards the sun, and they become comets. So to explain what we have, what people think produces these comets, there are comets that have a period that is less than 200 years and comets that have a period that is greater than 200 years. And that is calculated through looking at the orbit of the object. So a more closed orbit, more elliptical, will have a lower orbital period. And a more open orbit will have a longer orbital period. So first of all, the comets that have a period that is less than 200 years, they are thought to come from the Kuiper belt, which is a disk on the ecliptic plane beyond the orbit of Neptune. As you know, Neptune is now thought of as the furthest planet from the sun because Pluto got demoted and is now actually thought of as a Kuiper belt object. And so Neptune is at 30 AU, and the Kuiper belt goes up to about 50 AU from the sun. And the Kuiper belt is similar to the asteroid belt. It contains many objects that have their orbits or can be perturbed by other objects, and they get sent into the solar system and they become comets. Now, it is theorized that there is another cloud that is filled with objects that are icy and small, a lot smaller than planets. Doesn't mean they're very small. Some of them can be as large as a small rocky planet. But that's what's called the Oort cloud. So if we scroll down a little bit, Scott.
Okay.
So what you see here are is the Oort cloud. On the left is what it would look like from outside. And the Oort cloud is at about a distance of 50,000 AU from the sun. It's very far, which is about 1 light year away. And it's supposed to form a spherical cloud all the way around the solar system. And on the right, you can see what it should look like. And it's not to scale because remember, the Oort cloud is 50,000 AU away, whilst the Kuiper belt is only 50 from 30 to 50 AU.
So the
But,
Kuiper, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but so the Kuiper belt is within this big Oort cloud. We're basically encompassed in this big Oort cloud.
Yes, that's right. So basically, the Kuiper belt is thought of as part of the solar system, the outer edge of the solar system, and Pluto is one of the objects in it, and the Oort cloud is beyond that, and it surrounds. It makes a spherical shell all the way around the solar system. But there are a few problems with the Oort cloud. For example, we don't actually have any evidence for its existence. But it was theorized in order to explain these comets coming in with very open orbits. And so it was theorized that they were coming from this Oort cloud. And because that's the explanation astrophysicists came up with. But there are a few problems with that, as I will explain. If you scroll down a little bit more.
Okay, here we go.
So we have lots of comets coming in. As you can see, there's this picture. And now if Nemesis comes in through the Oort cloud, because the Oort cloud is at about 1 light year, whilst Nemesis, its furthest distance from the sun would be 1.5 light years away. So it would go through the Oort cloud, and it would disturb the orbits of these icy objects. And then we would possibly get a lot of comets coming into the solar system. And this is what is thought is what causes the cataclysmic events that Nemesis can cause inside the solar system. And that would be these comets coming in, and the comet impact with the Earth would be cataclysmic because some of these objects are quite large. Some people even think that the dinosaurs were destroyed by such an event. So, but the problem is, like I mentioned before, and if we scroll down a little bit more, we'll get into that.
Okay, figure 6.
Yeah. Yes. So, first of all, even Carl Sagan said there was no evidence for the existence of the Oort cloud. And if you study comets carefully, they have long tails. They have 2 tails. They have a plasma tail and they have a dust tail. They also have what's called a coma. A coma is like an induced magnetosphere because these objects have a thin atmosphere that comes off the object itself and encompasses the object. It's just like a little dust cloud. And they have the coma and the plasma tail. They're both created by ion exchange between the solar wind and the atmosphere of the object. It can also be caused by ultraviolet light. It basically means that this thin atmosphere is ionized, becomes ionized by being in the solar system. And they also have what's called, it's been discovered, jet-like plasma discharges between the nucleus of the comet and this cloud that surrounds it. And if you remember, that's very similar to what happens with brown dwarf stars, which I've been talking about. But I should mention first that the other problem with the Oort cloud is that all the studies that have been done up to now, the thought of the Oort cloud as being produced by what is left of planetary formation. So when the planets of the solar system formed, there was material that was left over. And this material got pushed outwards to 1 light year away and formed a sphere a spherical shape. Actually, it's yeah. So it formed this spherical cloud around the solar system, and that is thought to have a mass of 40 times that of Earth, and that leads to the observations we have for the amount of comets that come in, and can explain it. The problem is, all these studies did not include the fact that there could be collisions whilst this process is going on, of this material being pushed out to the edge of beyond the edge of the solar system. But when these collisions are included, and a study has been done that's referenced to, what happens is most of this cloud is destroyed, and we only end up with one Earth mass up to 3.5 Earth masses. And that is not sufficient to account for the large number of these long period comets that we see coming into the solar system. So that shows you there's a problem with the theory of the Oort cloud. It's possible that the Oort cloud doesn't actually exist. And some astrophysicists have come up with other ideas as to what causes these comets. I have my own idea, and I'll explain it as well. So if we scroll down a little bit.
Okay, doctor, I'm gonna adjust something with my audio,
Okay.
but you can go ahead and continue with
Okay.
with your report. It'll just take me a second. I'm gonna step away.
Okay.
But you could continue.
Right. Okay, thanks, Scott. Okay, so comets actually are electrical in nature when you consider the fact that they are jet-like plasma discharges between the nucleus of these comets and the cloud surrounding them. So if they are electrical in nature, and that is actually quite similar to what we see happening with brown dwarf stars. And that suggests that these objects are coming into the solar system from outside the solar system. And what causes them to charge up is the fact that they have a different electric potential to the sun and all the objects in the solar system. So basically, they get charged when they come into the solar system. And that suggests they come from outside. They don't actually belong in the solar system itself. And we have to realize that the sun is streaming through the solar system at a speed of 230 kilometers per second. So that's what you see here in figure 8. You see the sun, you see all the planets orbiting the sun, and they're all moving through the galaxy, orbiting around the center of the galaxy at a speed of 230 kilometers per second, or 514,000 miles per hour. So there's a possibility that the sun encounters different environments as it goes through the galaxy. And it's possible that there are many objects, that the galaxy is not as empty as it has been thought up to now. And that there are lots of objects everywhere that can come into the solar system quite easily. And then, so we would have then these comets coming from outside the solar system. And we would have brown dwarf stars that are possibly out there as well. Remember, brown dwarf stars are dark objects. They usually emit very little visible light. Most of them only emit infrared light. So they're very difficult to see. We could have hundreds, if not thousands, of brown dwarf stars in a region of space, and then the sun comes by and they start entering the solar system. And because there are these similarities between comets and brown dwarf stars, mainly these ejections, because brown dwarf stars, when they come, and this is what I have observed since I started observing these brown dwarf stars, is that when they come into the solar system, they dark, and then they start having plasma discharges between the core of the star and the cloud of ionized gas surrounding it. So it starts to light up, and eventually it seems to rejuvenate and become almost like a main sequence star, where it may actually have plasma on its surface to the point that it can have fusion reactions and even have a stellar wind. So this is what I think may be happening here. We have comets and we have brown dwarf stars just outside the solar system, or the solar system went past a region in the galaxy where these objects were. All right, Scott, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so we can scroll down a little bit more. Now, this is Robert S. Harrington. This is a picture of him. He was the first astronomer to say there's an object out there. And I think actually what he saw was a brown dwarf star, or a brown dwarf star system, one of the first that came in. Because I actually think these objects have been around for a long time, and they're very difficult to see. So I think they may have started coming in about 100 years ago. And I think it's a strong possibility that Robert Harrington saw one of these brown dwarf stars coming into the solar system. And what are these stars? These stars, as I mentioned before, have plasma discharges like comets. And they were probably close to our sun, but they were not visible because they were so dark. But he managed to observe one of them. And as you know, he got killed because of it.
Yeah, very, very sad circumstances surrounding the death of Dr. Robert Harrington. Yes, he was the chief astronomer for the U.S. Naval Observatory. And I mean, this man was in complete perfect health as far as the story goes. And then after wanting to publish his paper and his research papers, all of a sudden he died of esophageal cancer. And I just find that very, very hard to believe that, you know, this man being in perfect health, from what I understand, you know, he didn't drink, he didn't smoke, nothing of the nature, you know, all of his past physical and health history was perfectly fine. And because he wanted to publish the information that he had in his reports, well, ladies and gentlemen, going back all of these years, I guess there's a very high possibility that they wanted to shut him up. And, well, basically that's what happened. The man passed away. He died. The cause of death was esophageal cancer.
Yes.
And his papers, all of his reports, everything surrounding Dr. Robert Harrington has been completely classified with the United States government, still to this day. So, you know, ladies and gentlemen, you know, whenever you start thinking about these subjects, okay, let's go right back to this.
Yeah.
You know, the man did his observations. He observed this first from New Zealand using a special custom-built telescope. And again, you know, he put all of this information into a report with his team, and then the report was given directly to, I believe, President Ronald Reagan, if I'm not mistaken. And shortly after, I'm pretty sure my timeline's correct, shortly after the death of Robert Harrington and this cover-up, under the president at the time, Ronald Reagan, the Star Wars program was born. So there's a lot of correlations that fit hand in hand with this man doing his job, doing what he was paid to do. And, you know, in the end, it cost him his life. That's my opinion. That's also the opinions of a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Very sad.
It is very sad, Scott, because he was an excellent astronomer, and he was doing what no astronomer nowadays dares to do. He was out to tell everybody the truth. So to me, he's a hero.
Yes, I would have to put him in that classification, and now a martyr, because he knew based on what he was observing, even all of those years ago, and, you know, with just using, you know, his knowledge and the equipment that he had, he knew that something was approaching our solar system, and it wasn't good, even though based on his calculations, you know, it wasn't going to be here for quite a long time.
Yes.
And there have been many, many statements that have come out by whistleblowers that the people at NASA, you know, and the JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, they basically said, well, okay, you know what? Hey, I'm 50 years old now. This object's not going to be here for another 35 to 40 years. I'll be dead and gone. So who cares? Who cares? Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, 2017. And, you know, we're now being faced with the situation. The situation is much, much different than the beginning stages of the investigations and research by Dr. Robert Harrington. And, you know, we haven't even touched on the research from Carlos Ferrata, and we'll get into the Herberculus theories from Carlos Ferrata at another time. But the bottom line is, we do have a man who was a professional. He was the chief astronomer for the United States Naval Observatory. He wasn't an amateur. He was definitely not an amateur astronomer on YouTube.
Yes.
Sorry, I just had to throw that in there.
Oh, yes. Yes, you're absolutely right. Now, don't forget that these brown dwarf stars that are now in the solar system, and we have been observing, and Scott, of course, has taken many photographs of the blue brown dwarf. We know it's here. We have photographic evidence that these objects are here. We found a lot of evidence in situ images as well. These objects are about the size of Jupiter. And the blue brown dwarf is larger than most of them, 3 times the size of Jupiter. But because they are of that size, they would look like a planet, even though they are actually stars. So, but they are very old stars. So the name Planet X would fit in with the observation of these objects, because they are about the size of a large gas giant planet. So I just wanted to mention that, because a lot of people put what Dr. Robert Harrington found with the name Planet X. All right, Scott, and if we scroll down a bit more.
Yeah, you know, even getting back to the name Planet X, I believe there was a book, you know, like a small novel type book that was written, and if I'm not mistaken, back in the 40s. And it was kind of like a UFO type book that was written, and it was called, I don't know if it was called the Man from Planet X or something like that, the Planet X. So it kind of stuck, but initially the X in Planet X was meant as the Roman numeral number 10, the 10th planet. Now I use it, and it's evolved into something totally different. I use the word planet X as meaning like an X factor, the unknown, because right now, ladies and gentlemen, as I said in the very beginning, we're trying to get through the disinformation and the hypothesis of Nemesis and Nibiru and get right down to brass tacks on what is actually happening in our inner solar system. And we've gone over all of the possible threats, and there are probably many, many more. Will the Earth be completely destroyed? No, I don't think so. Can it happen? Well, probably. The solar system is a beautiful place, but it's also a violent place. So we're just trying to get through some of the early history of Nemesis and Planet X and Nibiru to get down to the real truth where we need to be today on June 16th in the year 2017.
Right. So what I think actually is happening, because I've mentioned before, the sun is traveling through the galaxy. And I think actually the galaxy is not as empty as it has been thought. So we've been thinking for many years that there are large empty distances between stars, 4 light years between the sun and the next star, which is Alpha Centauri. But it could be. It is a strong possibility, and I think we have enough evidence to suggest this, that it's not as empty as we thought, that there are small objects, rocky objects around that come in or go past the solar system and then come into the solar system and become comets. And then they become charged inside the solar system and start having plasma discharges. And that the same thing happens with brown dwarf stars, that possibly the sun went past an area where there were lots of brown dwarf stars, because what we've observed in the solar system is that these brown dwarf stars can be very close to each other. In other words, they have this tendency to cluster. Sometimes I look at the Secchi image and I see a brown dwarf star and another one right next to it. And they also are in the sun's corona, actually touching the sun. So these objects have a tendency to cluster. They obviously have a tendency to attract each other. They're obviously attracted to the sun. And that to me is evidence of a force acting between these stars that is like the strong force that attracts protons and neutrons in the nucleus of an atom. It's like that. So it's like the strong force is acting on an astronomical scale. And I've mentioned this before several times, that this is just what I have observed is happening in the solar system, because these brown dwarf stars come in and they stick around the sun. Also, don't forget that most stars, 90% of stars, end up as white dwarfs. And what I have discovered is that brown dwarf stars are just one step beyond the white dwarf stage. So a star will start aging and turn into a white dwarf, and then it will age a little bit more, and the next stage is the brown dwarf star stage, where it basically loses its ability to emit visible light, and it just emits infrared light. But it is able to still rejuvenate. That's what we've observed in the solar system. These stars are still able to become like main sequence stars. They're just a lot smaller if they absorb energy from the sun. So I think what is actually happening is that there are objects coming into the solar system from outside the solar system that are within our galaxy, and some of them are rocky objects and they become comets. And these brown dwarf stars, because we have so many of them in the solar system now, I think what happened was the sun went past a cluster of them and they got attracted to the sun and they came right in. And these brown dwarf stars are therefore Nemesis. Each of them can be called Nemesis because they each a star. They each come in. They don't seem to ever leave. And in the end, they can actually cause more damage in the solar system than Nemesis could cause, because Nemesis would come in and go out again, and it would disrupt the Oort cloud, according to that theory, and bring in a whole lot of comets. It could cause a cataclysmic event on Earth, but it doesn't mean that all life on Earth would end, because it may have happened before and life went on. But what these brown dwarf stars are doing in congregating around the sun is they are draining the sun. And in the end, even though it may be a slow process, they may be able to destroy the sun to the point that the effect will be much longer lasting and possibly a lot worse. And that's basically the report, Scott.
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic, and short, sweet, to the point. And
Yeah.
when the doctor was referring to clusters and things of that nature, ladies and gentlemen, these are just not her ideas or theories. This has been recently proven. There was a very large conference at Harvard University where they had researched using the WISE space telescope to image very large clusters of brown dwarf stars. And basically they take this big, wide image of deep space, and then they systematically continue to take these, I believe they refer to them as plates. And then after they have all of these plates, they start to analyze them deeply for hours and hours and hours and days and months at a time to start to see what is out there. And this is just a few years ago. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, the research into brown dwarf stars is still continuing. But a lot of these, universities and astronomers, they depend on government grants for this research. During this Harvard University conference, this was all astrophysicists, some of the best astronomers from around the world, physicists. They were all there, and they were going over the information of this big cluster of brown dwarf stars, and they were all together, and there were planets orbiting some of these brown dwarf stars. 6 months later, they were able to image the same cluster. Well, 6 months later, it wasn't a cluster anymore. All of the brown dwarf stars that were in that cluster all moved in opposite directions, basically going on their way. And as the doctor has stated, we live in a very large solar system and galaxy. So if you think for just 1 minute that our nice little solar system is never, ever going to encounter other substellar objects, well, I'd have to say you're wrong. There is absolutely no one on the face of the earth that knows completely 100% what is out there. And you're always going to have scientists trying to, I hate to use the word, but debunk other scientists based on their theories. One of the biggest scientists in all of his theories, who we honor, is Albert Einstein. So theories are part of science, ladies and gentlemen. You have to form the theory and then investigate it. And that is exactly what we are doing. And we're trying to bring the hardcore evidence to the world population. But as you know, in today's times, censoring is a big issue. And world governments, well, they don't want to play ball. I've mentioned this before. They do not want to lose control over their people. They don't want to lose control over the world population. That is one big financial mess. And sooner or later, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get to the point where these objects that are being observed in our skies, well, they're not going to be able to cloak them much longer. We're already seeing this. Phenomenal photographs coming in from around the world. Yes, there will be people out there that will tell you that they are lens flares and camera artifacts, and there will always be the people out there that will try to debunk everything you say. And the reason why they do that is because they are hired to do that. This has been going on, oh my, I think since World War II. Propaganda. They don't want you to have the information, ladies and gentlemen. They just don't want you to have it. The same thing started to occur shortly after 9/11, when people started to investigate what happened in New York City on September 11th. And when people started to investigate the Twin Towers, these people, well, let's just say these factions were ordered to debunk and discredit all of these individuals. And we're talking about engineers, okay? Engineers who build skyscrapers, who came out and they said the government's investigation was a lie. And basically, these people were hushed. They were just meant to be, completely debunked. And we all know what happened in New York City on September 11th. And the situation that we're facing right now, here today, in 2017, is very similar. They do not want the doctor to speak on this subject. Yes, she's not an astronomer, but she has full working knowledge of astronomy and physics. She's very well educated, very well. So if there's going to be an individual out there who tries to debunk her and her observations, I feel that they better come to the plate with an educational background similar to hers, if not better. And doctor, really quick, because we have a lot of new viewers to our channel, do you mind going over your studies from the beginning of entering college and the degrees that you hold?
Okay, Scott.
I know you're very modest. I know you're very modest. You don't like to go that route. But I think it is beneficial. I think it's beneficial to everyone to know who is speaking to them.
Okay. Like all other physicists, we start out as undergraduate students. So I did a BSc degree. And then in my country, you do a 1-year degree after that called the honors degree. And then I did a master's in theoretical physics. And then I did a PhD in theoretical particle physics. And later I did another master's degree in science education.
Wait a minute.
So I have 5.
You have 2 master's degrees.
Yes, I have 2 master's degrees.
Oh, Lord. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I want, it's actually very helpful with lecturing, because it helped me understand the theories regarding teaching at and learning at in tertiary education. So yes,
Whenever
that's
whenever you were going through your college days, what was your, whenever you graduated from college and getting your master's, what was your, how could I say, what was your class ranking? Were you the smartest of the smart?
Well, in third year in honors, I got gold medals for being the top student in the class.
So do you think that you are more than qualified to speak on this subject? Don't be modest. Don't be modest. Tell,
I have to be honest. I am not a trained astronomer. What I did was, during my postgraduate degrees, I did a course in stellar evolution. And I've always been interested in astronomy and astrophysics, and I've kept up with it over the years, always reading about it. And my training's not in it, so I have to tell you the truth. But I am trying, like every other physicist, to learn a new field if I have to. And I am trying to think. That's what I was training my students to do, to think. So, yeah, I believe that I am qualified to research and come up with my own ideas and to speak about it.
There's one more question.
Yes.
And we have to put this out there. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to me very, very carefully. And doctor, I know you tell the truth no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And ladies and gentlemen, I couldn't get her to lie if I even tried to, because she's just a very, very honest person. And her main goal is to help everyone understand what is happening. And our main goal is to get the word out so we can all be prepared for whatever is happening. And we see a lot of things happening. That's a fact. Okay. But I want to touch on one subject, and I want to clear things up. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
How do you feel about an individual or group of individuals who try to debunk everything that you say, but yet their education is high school and their current jobs are selling used cars and delivering pizzas at the age of 38? What do you think about somebody like that debunking your observations, debunking your reports and your research?
Well, I actually think it's shocking that they are so desperate to debunk me. And to, I mean, in a way, it tells me that they're afraid of the information that I'm putting out. And it actually says that to me that they actually believe it. Because if they didn't believe what I was saying, if they thought there was nothing to it, they would just leave me alone. They would just let me put my foot in my mouth and go on doing it. But the fact that they are so focused on fighting with every word that I say, that we both say, Scott, I think that shows that they actually think that I'm speaking the truth. That's what I think. I think they are paid to do it. I think, I mean, I have talked to astronomers themselves who are trained astronomers. And the tactics they use are not honest either. I mean, I've explained to you what happened when I tried to explain the SDO eclipse season to my colleague. And he refused to even discuss what happens to the corona because he could not come up with any reason for that to happen. So, I mean, these people, I mean, I was even more concerned about the fact that astronomers sink to that level. But these people, of course, they go to extra lengths to debunk what we are saying. And I think they are paid to do it.
Do you think anybody believes them?
Well, the way I feel, Scott, is people have the right to believe what they want. If people want to believe what those people are saying, that is up to them. If they want to believe what I say, that is their choice too. I am putting out the truth as I see it, and I want people to choose what they want to believe. I believe they have the right to that.
Absolutely. And, you know, ladies and gentlemen, this right was completely taken away from the doctor in her lecturing and her teaching at the university where she works. And for a lot of you that are, you know, joining us for the first time, a few months ago, the doctor's 17-year career at the university where she was working, teaching, and lecturing came to an end. It came to an end very abruptly. And it all centered around, you know, these factions wanting her to stop doing what she was doing. So therefore, they sent very nasty email transmissions to the chancellor, the head of the school, basically the professor's boss, if you want to call it that. And because of the details, which were basically all lies in the email, the university did not stand behind her because of the controversy. And ladies and gentlemen, we're surrounded by controversy every single minute of the day. Watch CNN, the crap news network. I mean, it's rampant all the way around the world. Nobody wants you to have the correct information. You know, sometimes we even wonder about the textbooks that we were taught from in school. Is it the real truth? Or is it what they want you to believe? Predictive programming. It's a big issue, ladies and gentlemen. So everybody has the right to their own opinion. That is a fact. Even the little debunkers out there that deliver pizzas part-time, they have the right to speak. But do they have the right to create situations where somebody loses their professional career because the doctor wanted to research something on her own time? But at this point in time, we would both like to thank those individuals who created that situation, because now another situation is going to be created. And that is myself and the doctor are going to step things up considerably. And we'll have more announcements on all of that in the days and the weeks to come. Because our main goal is you, the people. That's what we're here for. We're not here for advertising and making money on YouTube. That doesn't exist. It's ridiculous. But the doctor does have a right to research this subject, voice her opinion, and speak to whoever wants to listen. And hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully on down the line, the earth and we as a people make it through all of this. Maybe some will, maybe some won't. But the fact of the matter is, we cannot allow world governments to dumb us down and take advantage of us even further from what they've already done. It's very, very sad for humanity and for other human beings to treat us this way. And we're going to continue. We're going to continue each and every day into our research. That much is a fact. So if you want to debunk everything that we say, well, give it your best shot. But you're not qualified to do that. The lady that you're listening to here today, she's paid her dues. She paid for her own education. And I think we all owe her that much respect. She does a fantastic job. And at this point in time, it's consuming her life as all of this has consumed my life over the years. Do I let it consume my life? Yes, I do, because I'm on a mission, and that mission is to divulge and disclose what is happening. Call me a whistleblower, call me a fraud, call me a criminal, whatever you want. I don't care. The name calling doesn't bother me. My skin is like steel. It bounces right off of me. And then I turn around and I laugh, because that only goes to show everyone the proof. The proof. Doctor, any last words for all of our viewers?
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me and allowing me to speak the truth, to tell people about what is happening in the solar system. We are in a serious situation. And I think this is the appropriate time to get to know our Creator.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree 100%. And, real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we're going through another solar stream of energy coming from the sun. I've listed several short little videos on my YouTube channels. They may not be the big picture shows of planets and objects in the sky, but whenever I show these small videos pertaining to the magnetopause, the solar wind, and the SDO images of the sun, take a few minutes. They're very short videos, some of them 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute. But we're trying to teach you and show you what's happening and the science behind it. And we hope that you pick up on it. And we're always here to answer your questions. You can join our Facebook page. There's a link in the description box. Our Facebook page is full of information, constantly being updated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can send private messages in. You can post things on the page, and we're going to utilize that Facebook page even more in the days and the weeks and the months to come. And once again, if you have any questions, hey, feel free to send them in by email. We do get a tremendous amount of emails, so have a little patience. Just looked in my email today, I had almost 8,000 emails backing up. So we're going to be thinking of something to the effect of getting some help in getting through the emails and getting through the messages on Facebook. But that just goes to show you that people are listening, people are watching, people have ideas and concerns, and that's what we're here for. I'd like to thank all of you for sticking with us and sticking up for us. I'd like to thank the moderators in the live chat today. You guys do a fantastic job. And for you, the viewers, once again, I would like to thank you very, very much. Spread the word, and you can share all of our videos on your Facebook page and your Twitter. And, it gives you the opportunity to create a conversation with someone who's seeing the information for the first time. And they say, hey, Bob, what was that video that you just posted on your Facebook page? What's that all about? Well, ladies and gentlemen, take that opportunity to awaken that individual. That's what it's all about. This is Scott from Planet X News and the Nibiru channel. Thank you for watching.